Meeting to order at 1 p.m. on the dot on Tuesday, March 18th, 2025. First order of business is to call roll. I'll turn it over. Oh, Laurence, are you calling roll or is Riley calling roll?
I can call roll. Chair Kalipi.
Present and no one else is around.
I do see him.
He is Director Bruce. It doesn't look like he has a microphone, Director Bruce.
I'm here by myself.
So Vice Chair Miyashiro, it will not be attending today. Director Jones will not be attending, nor will Director Siramos. Director Medina. Don't think he's joined quite yet. Director Suji.
Present and by myself.
Director Tsao.
Present conference room?
Director Hilton.
Yes, present here in my office by myself.
Director Wilshire.
Present in the conference room?
Director Kaina.
Present and I'm by myself.
Director Molinaro.
Present and flying solo. Aloha, everybody.
I guess we could continue in the room here. Maybe start with Executive Director Saito.
So I just turned on. Oh, I can. Okay, Rai Saito, Executive Director, NELHA in the conference room. Aloha.
Laurence Bombardier, Deputy Director, NELHA in the conference room. I'm sorry,
John Wiltshire, Director.
actually just the guest.
My name is Ted Clark, visitor.
Faustine Edge, Administrative Assistant, NELHA, conference room.
That's it for the conference room. We have a few guests online as well. Before we do that, John Cole.
Good afternoon. I'm by myself in my office.
And we have 4 staff members from NELHA. Jennifer, if you would like to start.
Jennifer Rasmussen, business manager. I'm alone in my office, and Sherry Ortez is in her office alone also.
Thank you. Pam?
Hi, good afternoon. This is Pam. I'm the water quality lab manager at NELHA. I'm in the lab by myself. Thank you.
And finally, Brian Babbitt.
Brian Babbitt, NELHA Engineering. I'm here in my office by myself.
That's it, Chair. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, the first order of business will be to approve or to consider the NELHA Board of Directors minutes from January 21st, 2025. May I please have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Thank you. Did you get those, Faustine?
Yes, I got it. Yes, I did.
Okay,
Thank
awesome.
you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any discussion about the minutes? Okay, is anyone opposed to passing the motion to approve the January 21st, 2025 minutes? Okay, hearing none, the January 21st, 2025 minutes are hereby approved. The next item on our agenda is public testimony. We will be providing 3 minutes of testimony per person. Is there anyone in the conference room who would like to provide public testimony?
No, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone online who would like to provide public testimony? Okay, seeing none. We will move on to the next item, which is old business, and that is discussion and decision making regarding the nomination of Dr. Terry Searles to serve on the Research Advisory Committee, or the RAC. Dr. Hilton, do you have any comments you'd like to start us off with?
I just became aware that Dr. Searles was interested because we had a vacancy develop in the RAC over the past 3 months or so. And I also understand that he had some recent contact with Greg as Greg was wrapping up some work, as executive director on the way out. He expressed some interest in being involved. He has a stellar resume. I think he'd be a really great addition to the RAC. His resume is in the board book I saw. And, his focus, of course, looks to be mostly in the energy area. But it would be great having him as an addition. Laurence might have a little more to say about some of his recent interactions in terms of what he was called in for most recently in terms of assisting NELHA. But as far as bringing him on the RAC, I think it'd be great to have him.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments or questions or discussion?
I'll say a couple of things. I had a few chances to interact with him when I was at the University of Hawaii in Manoa, and he had done some work with the Natural Energy Institute there. I found him to be excellent, just, very, very well qualified and a very pleasant person to deal with. So I, for one, would highly recommend him.
Thank you. I've also worked with Terry for a while in various capacities with different hats that I've had over my career. Found him to be very knowledgeable. Also has a deep bench in terms of networks. If he doesn't know the answer, the ability to reach out to national organizations to get information, to get examples, and to bring them in per se if we needed expert, if the RAC needed additional expertise. So I think that's, he's well qualified to join. I defer to the chair of the RAC though, and I appreciate his endorsement. Is there anyone else who would like to make any comments?
I could maybe just add that most recently, he completed that report on the energy activities at NELHA, and then provided recommendations for future activities. That report was presented, I want to say November of last year.
Okay, could I have a motion to approve the nomination of Terry Searles to serve on the Research Advisory Committee, please?
I'll do that. So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is anyone opposed to approving the motion to nominate Dr. Searles to serve on the RAC? Okay, hearing no objection, the motion is hereby approved. We do not have any new business on the agenda. So the next item is the financial report.
Share my screen. Not sharing. Yeah, oh, so Chair, introduce Riley Saito. No.
We have a guest.
Yes, we do have a guest that entered. Would you mind providing your name?
Yes, for National Park Service.
Thank you, Jeff.
That's up.
And I'm having a little bit of trouble sharing my screen.
Yeah, we just go
It's
ahead.
sharing the presentation, but I'm not able to move it.
Joe, just go ahead and bring up the.
And when I make it full screen, are the rest of you able to see a full screen? No, right?
We're
No.
getting that.
So maybe we could go Plan B,
Okay.
and I will stop sharing this. While Faustine does that, I can just start the narrative a little bit. Riley has asked me to give the financial, so you can ask me all the questions and then I'll direct them to him.
All right.
So pretty much it has been a small decrease on the revenue side and a corresponding small decrease on the expenditure side. So pretty much flat you'll see on the end special fund balance. But on the revenue side, and that's working now. The first graph that was included in your board packet, also placing that on the screen right now, which you should all be able to see. So total of 4.3% decrease. That is mostly due to some reduction in space leased in Host Park. In particular, we lost a customer, Forever Oceans, and Blue Ocean Barns moved to Mexico. So those two spaces have been returned to us. Also, Big Island Abalone has reduced their space. So there is a decrease of about 10% on the Host Park land that's leased, but that's been offset by new projects within the campus. Labor services have decreased a little bit as well, and that's probably mostly due to Department of Health project that used to provide some significant revenue through the lab, but they've reduced their needs for our services at this time. Other than that, there's been changes on the electrical and freshwater reimbursements, but they pretty much offset each other. So the end result is that revenue is more or less the same as this time last year. Oh,
Next screen,
trying to
screen.
click
Okay, there,
next and so on the revenue, you can see we're similar to the previous years. The gray line is fiscal year 2025. And this report goes up to the end of February. So the first eight months. And you can see we're in line in previous years. Next screen, please. Are there any questions on the revenue side?
Well, I noticed there's a green line there. I think it's fiscal 21 seems to have made a whole lot more money.
Yeah, we did great in February that year.
Yeah. So what happened?
So those were federal,
okay.
federal projects, and also that's when our FEMA and insurance funds hit.
Okay.
So it reflects as
So
a big
those are
jump.
just one time.
Yes.
Wonderful occurrences.
Yes, and in fact, if you look at the line, if you were to take away the hump, the line is basically the same slope as before that hump. Any other questions?
This is Gordon. Interest income is down because our deposits are down, I'm assuming.
I'm sorry, I did not catch the question.
Did I see that interest income was down on the screen before this one?
Yes, you did.
Interest income is down by 31%?
0.1%.
Oh, 0.1. I'm sorry, I read it wrong. Okay, ignore my comment. You're good.
Okay. Those are typically small amounts. What they consist of are the late payments. So when folks tend to be late, then we get a little bit more interest income. And also it has to do if there's an exit on Hatch Fund 1, of which we've only had one so far, that would show up under that column as well. And I believe last year we had an exit which provided $40,000, something like that.
Great. Thank you very much. Sorry for my error.
No worries.
Hi, this is Dave.
Yes.
Just a little education for me. Previous slide. Could you just quickly talk about the difference in what Host Park land lease base rent is and Host Park lease percent rent payments are and Host Park royalty lease payments?
Okay, So differences, host park land lease. So for those of you who are familiar with the park, we have two research campuses. One research campus, which we call the Mackay Research Campus, is a 4-acre campus down here at the end of Makako Bay Road. There's a Mauka campus by the highway, that's 3 acres. So 7 acres total of research campus. So that any revenue from there, except for offices, would go under the research campus covered, uncovered space. Host Park is pretty much anything that's not in the campus. So you can think of it as the larger projects, the longer term projects. Typically they're on at least 3 acres. So larger and longer term. So that falls under the category of Host Park land lease base rent. Then Research Campus Office, that is specifically revenue that has to do with this Hale Iyako building that we're all sitting in, those of us who are in the conference room are sitting in right now. That was separated out. At the time, it was a low-hanging fruit on how to increase our revenue. So it's a revenue stream that didn't exist prior to Greg being here and getting funds to renovate this Hale Iyako building. And then, so those are all base rents, those 3 things that I talked about, Host Park land lease, research campus, both covered in office, base rent, should be consistent every month. The Host Park percent rent, most of our long-term leases or anything that's commercial or even pre-commercial has a dual lease system. It pays a base rent regardless of how well the company is doing. If the company is doing really well, it might owe percent rent. And that percent rent is based on the annual revenues of the company as it exceeds the base rent. So that's percent rent. That can be highly variable row in this table going from one year to the next.
So what percentage of the companies are doing really well and have to pay the extra rent? No.
So it's not as simple a question as you might think. There's another factor in this, and that is the offsets that a company can receive depending on how much investment it has put into ground improvements in the park. So some companies may not be paying percent rent, not because they wouldn't owe it, but because they have offsets to their percent rent.
That's fair.
So yeah, I don't think I can give you a percentage right off the top of my head, but yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Moving on to expenditures, that's a little bit more complicated in terms of categories. We've split it out into, well, pretty much all the areas that we do have some spendings. But there hasn't been a huge change overall. The seawater system expenditures were down by about 11%. And, you know, that depends on 2 things. It depends on the amount of water that people utilize, but also the cost of electricity. So there was a substantial, and also our fixed costs, which are in large part made up by the personnel costs. And we have been short-staffed for the last 6 months. And so personnel costs there are showing a bit less than they were this time last year. That said, we filled in positions. We just filled in one yesterday. We filled in one about a couple of weeks ago. So we really only have 2 open positions at this point. And once we fill those, we will be at full staff of 17.
Laurence, what got filled yesterday?
The janitorial and landscaping position got filled yesterday. He just started yesterday.
Okay.
His name is Jeremy?
Jeremy Fukunaga.
You could see he was out there shoveling this morning when he came in, so they put him to work immediately.
Great. I have another question. Does Keith know what our flush day ended up costing? Either NELHA or the tenants? Did he ever break that out?
He is working on it.
He's working on it, okay.
Yeah, we were having that whole discussion yesterday.
Okay, got it, thanks.
The let's see, tenant utilities, that ended up being flat. But that is due to a little bit of an offset between an increase in the fresh water and a decrease in the electrical. But the end result is that it's mostly flat. We've reduced our costs comparatively to last year on the ground maintenance and monitoring. And that again is because we were short-staffed, but also because we moved a lot of our efforts to both maintaining the beach park, which is always something that is a challenge for us, but also the environmental monitoring expenses as we continue to try to address the water quality issues. So we've gone out and purchased some services to do more monitoring on the water quality. So that's increased that category by about 11%. Finally, administrative expenses are increased by about 2%, not a huge amount percentage-wise, but that's still 22,000 for us. And that is in part due to, mandated salary increases, but also the first tranche of the hazard pay took place, when was it? September or October last year. The next and final tranche will happen this month in March.
What is hazard pay?
Oh, that one, okay.
That's the COVID hazard pay.
Oh, I
So the unions negotiated that there would be an amount that would be provided to those who were at work during COVID. Correct. Are there any questions on the expenditure side?
Are there any sort of extraordinary long-term expenditures that you see coming up that are, I don't know, for instance, problems with the deep water pipe comes to mind?
Yes, so there are two larger expenses that are not reflected in this particular report because this ends in February. We have two contracts, a security contract, which is about 200,000. That got executed in February, but won't reflect until the next report. And then we have that project that I think most of the board members are aware of at this point, which is removal of pipelines, the Ka'u pipeline offshore. That's about $250,000. Again, it got executed last month. It will be reflected on the next report. So next report, if you could go to the next slide, our special fund balance, actually go one more, please. Our special fund balance, you might see more of an impact. This time around, special fund balance is pretty much the same as it was when I last presented, which was 2 months ago in January. And finally, if we can go 2 slides forward. There we go. The arrears that was provided in your board packet, we have an update like we usually do the day of the board meeting. And you can see that we reduced from 72,000 to 38,000 is our current arrears at this point. And then that's it for my report. Are there any questions?
When is it expected that Dawn will begin operations at the old Blue Ocean Barns?
So Stablefish, the supplemental and the consent to assign the lease from Blue Ocean Barns to Kona Sablefish Company, that was executed yesterday on Monday. And so they haven't given us a timeline on when they would start using water, if that's what your question is.
That's what I'm getting at, yeah.
That's what you're getting at. We don't have an exact date for that, but the lease, on the lease side of things, that transfer has happened.
Okay.
And Blue Ocean Barns is no longer responsible for that lot right there.
Got it. Thanks.
Laurence, Dave again, one
Anything?
more quick question. Insurance premiums under administrative expenses, what does that cover? What is the insurance premium? Is it for personnel insurance?
Oh, the insurance, is it 100,000? Is that the one you're talking about?
Looks like annual budget for 2025 is 200,000.
Yes, I think that's the risk management part of that, and that one did go through, I think last month. So it's our portion of the state risk management office, that they charge each agency and department. And our portion, because we have buildings and land and the such, our portion tends to be somewhat high. I want to say it's 166,000, but.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate that.
So Gordon, thank you for bringing up that risk management question. So do you carry cybersecurity insurance, or is that handled underneath the state?
We don't carry anything separately. It may be under the state. I don't know. I would have to double check on that.
Okay, thank you. Might be worth checking.
So we have another guest who joined us. Would you care to state name?
Oh, here's a sign.
Let's do Director
I'm
Medina.
sorry, we've never.
Yeah, we love That's all right, I have you.
Oh, you
You're
do?
director,
Oh,
yeah,
good,
you're
thank you.
director, so I have you check.
So Chair, Director Medina has joined us.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Long drive.
Did you run over any goats or?
No, I actually, I was at a meeting and the Shima's out there. I said, hey, I gotta go. So it's good, thank you. Sorry for being late.
So we do have
Oh, good.
those attending.
I-
And there's a screen on that side, so.
Oh,
So and that's where the camera is, if you wait.
Hey, Benson.
Anyway, yeah,
So we catch all sides of you, good,
Yeah.
bad, and.
good, bad, and ugly. Okay, great.
Can't escape.
Can't escape. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other board questions for the financial report? Okay, thank you for those questions, and thank you, Laurence, for sharing all of that and answering all of the questions. And thank you to the team for all of the work in putting that together. Can we have a motion to approve the financial report, please?
Approve the financial report.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Any opposition to approving the motion to approve the, or to passing the motion to approve the financial report? Okay, hearing none, the motion is hereby approved. Thank you very much, Laurence. I think the next thing we have on the agenda is the executive director's report, correct?
Yes.
All right, Riley, let's hear it.
All right,
Riley, we came for this.
I was gonna bring in my own birthday candle. I think it's the 18th of March, so it's like 1 month.
Yeah. Way to go.
Yeah, and feels like a lot longer,
Let me print.
but for good
Sorry.
reason. So.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah, that's right. I just. So as far as the first month has been very interesting, and as you can see, I had Laurence do the financial report because there's a lot involved. It's a very interesting entity in that you're a water department, you're a beach maintenance department, and landlord and many other things with a very experienced and knowledgeable team. There's 3 members that are like 20 years and or close to 20 years and beyond. So the staff really is high performing in what they do and their service delivery to the clients and adherence to laws and codes and other
Okay,
things along
thank you.
those lines. As far as
No, I get torn.
I can go over some updates regarding on the legislative side, that this just happened today is Senate Bill 1602. It's DNR Commission on Water Resource Management regarding the Keho Aquifer System Monitoring Program. So this Senate Bill 1602 had a companion bill 1495, House Bill 1495. It looks like House Bill will sit and just die. So the effort of the monitoring wells would be carried through the Senate bill. So what happened is that the Senate finished hearing the bill, passed it over to the House. So today was the first time the House Energy and Land and Water Committees heard the bill. And it was, there were about 3 testifiers. NELHA testified in support of it. It's to develop an actual aquifer monitoring system. It will take funding. The funding amount is currently blank. The effective date is still blank. Well, actually, it's in 2000, year 3000, I think. And that's because they always correct that at the end of the session. But, and so that was heard this morning. It passed, and with minor modifications. The main thing is there's no language changes and things along those lines. So it was pretty quick moving forward. Now, as far as new leases, kind of touched on it with Blue Ocean Barnes transferring to Kona Sablefish, and regarding the pipe removal, we did complete a work with Mackay Ocean Engineering, and that we just got the final report about 2 weeks ago. It's interesting because I was reading this report and I got to learn about the history of NELHA, the undersea world of NELHA, where pipes were put in like 50, 40 years ago, and they're kind of just still lurking under the ocean surface, and they need to be removed. We don't have funding on that, but we have the recommendation of what the removal would look like, the activity involved in moving them. I think a few miles of pipes is what it told us. So that's in the works. With the water quality, it's been an ongoing, at least weekly, almost daily type of front of mind subject within the staff. And and so with different events that occurred, with the water being, with Capture coming online or doing their commissioning and testing, it resulted in the need for about 7,000 gallons per minute being moved through the system for about a 4-hour period. And so that resulted, with a higher volume of water moving through the pipes, it moves anything that might be settled or stuck in the pipes, basically, to move versus a slower rate of water. And so that had some positive results in the sense where within some systems, things were collected that normally wouldn't necessarily show up with a lower rate of speed. And so that has been ongoing, and we continue to look at ways to improve and be sensitive to the need for that type of maintenance, along with the infrastructure maintenance that overall on the piping system that has been discussed in the past. So that is all I have for this first go around, first month. But very exciting place. We look at moving forward with different things, and hopefully it'll get. I'm really excited because NELHA has the flexibility, capability to really make world-changing types of events occur. And it's all there, it's all possible.
Thank you, Riley.
Yes.
And thanks for all the work that you've been doing, all the meetings that you've been having. I get to, for the rest of the board members, I get to do regular syncs or regular meetings with Laurence and Riley. So I get to hear in detail a lot more of the work that's being done. And there's a lot of work being done. So I just want to say thank you for hitting the ground running and for doing all that you're doing. With that, I'll open it up. Any board member questions for Riley?
Yeah, I have a question. I forget the name of the SB or the HB, but the one that designates NELHA's charter to include the word aquaculture. Has that been heard by the ledge yet?
It died.
Yeah,
Oh, that again?
yeah, it never got got out of the gate. It's like
Yeah.
nobody called a meeting to hear it.
Oh, no, okay.
And yeah, so
Is there someone against it? I mean, that seems to be kind of an almost de facto thing.
but
So for our Shellfish Growers Association that I'm the Hawaii rep for, that's critical for us for the
Right.
long-term standing of our industry, because
Right.
NELHA is critical infrastructure for the shellfish
Right.
industry on the West Coast. So as an association, we really, really want to see that through.
Because, I mean, NELHA has been doing aquaculture, I mean, more than half the people, or
Oh, yeah.
maybe 3/4, 90%.
I'm
are
surprised
doing
it died again.
aquaculture.
I wasn't aware. Oh, shame.
yeah, so normally what the bills get introduced and then they get heard in first reading, so to speak. So that means that if it's a Senate bill, it gets heard in the Senate in first reading, and if it passes that, then the president, Senate president, or the House Speaker will then assign committees. So I believe it got committee assignments, but none of the committees had a hearing on it. And so it was never scheduled
I see.
to be heard. So the discussion, the opportunity to have discussion never occurred.
So who is the person that we write to? Let's say my Growers Association. Who is the rep?
It would be our local state and House representatives.
So Lowen.
So on the House side,
Yeah.
Nicole Lowen, on the Senate side, Drew Kanuha.
Drew Kanuha.
So basically, the problem then was not that there was anybody really against it, but that it wasn't lobbied hard enough for.
Yeah, I guess that could be one of the reasons.
Okay.
And usually at that point where the committees get named and you start doing schedule, you're looking at like, 3,000-4,000 bills that you're trying to schedule.
Right.
And it could fall through the cracks, but if you were, squeaky in the beginning, so to speak,
Right.
you might get added to a schedule.
Right.
And but yeah, that's so it's interesting because it was recognized, it was somebody introduced it, it got through the first introductory processes, but it didn't get past that.
I got a question about it. It actually maybe sheds some light on a question I've had for a while, and that is in the NELHA annual report. Aquaculture is grouped with ocean science, I think intentionally. And I've always kind of wondered why that was the case. And this may shed some light on that if aquaculture itself is not called out as a prime mission element of NELHA. I always regarded things like ocean science related to being more like what Captura is doing, for instance, rather than say what Cyanotech has been doing there for a long, long time. Anyway, I would hope that perhaps in next session, there's an opportunity to get this item positioned in the right kind of bill with the right kind of attention to be moved through the system and get where it needs to go. But I was always curious why ocean science sort of had that grouping, and maybe it was just by default. Lawrence or anybody there can tell me maybe more about that, but that's something I wanted to ask.
I can try, because being the new person, I've been like going through the charter, you know, and in the charter is the ocean technologies wording. And in the charter, there's no mention of aquaculture. And so for the out thing, and this might be true or not, there's just my interpretation is that why it's aquaculture gets placed in that is because that's what's in the charter. And that's what fits. It's not energy, it's ocean technology. And so that's like my take of being a new person, seeing things kind of with fresh eyes.
Riley, this is Dave.
Hi.
Thank you again for jumping on board pell-mell with what you're doing, especially in the middle of Ledge. I know it's been a busy month. With respect to, and stop me if I shouldn't be talking about this, but the strategic plan development, and I know everybody hates this acronym, but the PIG. There was conversation about the discussion or clarification on the funding streams for the EIS for onshore or offshore, and that whole iteration of conversation. Is there any update to that?
Not at, from my end, meaning I have not, you know, gone out and searched the, work through the legislative team that
Okay.
would be involved with the funding. And, you know, to float the idea of maybe we need one, more money, and two, that our EIS and strategic plan should include both onshore and offshore, and not necessarily bifurcate them, because they're really not, they're integrated in a plan. I have not, and probably just almost intentionally, in that we're in the middle of a ledge time where there's very little time and space for other than what is currently, you know, on everyone's agenda. And so to bring up the potential tweaking of the EIS and master plan work at this time, they may not be receptive to carving out time for me to discuss that.
No, and I appreciate that. It's, again, a tough time walking in the middle of Ledge and trying to affect change and modifications like that. It's a tough time. I mean, really the planning for this, for the next Ledge session, occurs at the end of the current session. And that's when we start to engage with that. So yeah, appreciate the work the last month you've been on board. Thank you.
Chair, this is Russell. If I may add something for the executive director's knowledge, as well as for the board's knowledge. At DLNR, we were recently contacted by our AG, but what it was one of the tenants had lawyers. Was trying to schedule a meeting with DLNR to discuss what again came before the board, I don't know, before the end of the year. Remember that we had a briefing about some pipe contamination issue, and anyway, just wanted to give the heads up to the executive director and NELHA board that, you know, we deferred this matter to actually really, I thought, you know, it's more appropriate that they discuss it with NELHA directly, you know, and perhaps maybe with the, if necessary, the attached department, which would be the DBED. Yeah, I believe our AG had also let John Cole know as well. So just giving you a heads up that maybe Laurence can brief you, Riley, offline later.
We talk about it Not a day goes by and we don't talk about,
Oh,
moving forward with resolving or
Oh.
improving things.
okay.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you,
Heads
Director.
up.
Are there any other questions related to the executive director's report? Okay, with that, we have concluded our agenda. I'm super excited. Since I became board chair, we always, prior to me becoming board chair, would finish within 45 minutes to 60 minutes. And since becoming chair, we have had all 2-hour meetings. So I'm super excited that we're hitting the less than 60-minute mark here. Our next regularly scheduled board meeting will be on Tuesday, May 20th, 2025 at 1 p.m. Thank you to all of the board members and all of the team for all of the work that you are doing, and we will adjourn the meeting at 1:46 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you. Bye.
Aloha.